Section I Aspects of the Stratificational View of Language. The 6 papers in this section of the book introduce the reader to the stratificational philosophy of language in general. They do not, however, show the application of the theory to the solution of extensive linguistic problems. John Algeo's stratificational grammar has the distinction of being the most readable account of so complex and difficult a problem. It is thus the logical paper with which to begin such a book. Not only does the author possess a thorough command of the technicalities involved, but he is able to provide the beginner with appropriate analogies from literary history and classical antiquity. This introduction is followed by an unusually thorough and self-searching account of the evolution and current state of the theory, namely, Lamb's paper The Crooked Path of Progress in Cognitive Linguistics. We cannot overemphasize the importance of careful self-documentation in this respect. A word of comparison might be in order here, in that it is clear in 1972 that it is necessary to distinguish several stages in the development of transformational generative grammar as well, if indeed we can call modern transformational grammar a single theory of stratificational theory, comparing the insights provided at each stage with those of both classical Neo-Bloomfieldian and other theories. The stages thus referred to, I4, have been used throughout this reader to indicate the vintage of each contribution. The next 2 papers by Lamb give an introduction to the theory at 2 different stages of its development, 3 and 4. In addition, each article expounds the relation of the theory to a specific research area, namely, machine translation and general cognition. Aspects of the stratificational view of language. The first of these articles, Stratificational Linguistics as a Basis for Machine Translation, outlines the theory of Stage 3. Further details of the model at this stage are introduced in Kinship Terminology and Linguistic Structure, in Section 2. In the version presented here, the tactic SYS TEMS, considered adjuncts to the main generative mechanism, except in the case of semotactics, in earlier stages, begin to be more fully integrated into the model. The tactics of each stratum is stated in terms of so-called basic zems. Each of these units is the realization of an exon of the stratum above, and is realized as an actual or realized zeme of its own stratal system. Discrepancies between cons and basic zems involve mainly arrangement, and are indicated by the tactics, while those between basic zems and realized zems are specified by realization rules. This paper also puts considerable emphasis on Lamb's desire for maximum simplicity. Comparing the process of linguistic simplification to factoring in high school algebra. Linguistic and cognitive networks then reasserts the basic concepts the theory so far developed in terms of a fairly recent version of Stage 4. Here the emphasis is on the linguistic system as a network of relationships, and the reader finds the position systematically developed with data from English exemplifying the properties of the various strata. The treatment of some of the examples has been somewhat simplified for the purpose of introductory exposition, and does not represent Lamb's current opinion of their precise analysis. For example, phonological components for types of articulation are now thought to come directly out of the phonotactics, rather than being introduced in the phonemic sign pattern as is done here. A feature of this paper which does reflect a more recent development is the extension of the morphotactics to encompass phrases as well as single words. In the earlier version of Stage 4, as in the outline of stratificational grammar, morphotactics was considered responsible for the distribution of morphemes only up to the level of words. The concept of diamonds as connections between strata is also systematically introduced in this paper. Most significantly, it also provides an extension of the theory toward a representation of cognitive concepts, such as the structure of a baseball game, animal taxonomy, and the classical syllogism. It is demonstrated that the same kind of relational networks used for linguistic structure can be extended to represent human cognition as well. It is still not absolutely clear, of course, to what extent cognition can be considered a part of linguistics. Lamb tentatively proposes the term nostemic stratum in this paper, or that part of man's competence where thinking, the most abstract part or consciousness, is located. The remaining 3 papers in this section are the work of Peter A. Reich. They are somewhat less general than those of Lamb, though each deals with a specific concept within stratificational theory that has broad implications for the theory as a whole. The first of these papers, Competence, Performance, and Relational Networks, seeks to show the relation of the theory to psycholinguistics. Aspects of the Stratificational View of Language reviews Fodor and Garrett 1966, which, the author points out, documents the failure of transformational theory to predict psycholinguistic data. It is shown how a relational network model based on Lamb's stratificational grammar, and Reich frequently proposes his own solutions independently of Lamb's work, attempts to avoid this failure by incorporating a distinction between linguistic and problem-solving mechanisms, and restrictions which attempt to make relational networks behave in a way similar to the brain. Reich's symbols, relations, and structural complexity compares the relational network approach to linguistic description with the rewrite rule approach. It discusses in considerable detail an evaluation procedure for alternate network solutions and proposes new treatments of optionality and/or choices. This article is particularly important because it demonstrates that the algebraic notation used by Chomsky and his followers can be misleading with regard to the matter of simplicity. The Chomsky notation fails to make certain relations explicit, and it allows simplifications which are purely a matter of symbol manipulation rather than significant generalizations. Both of these points are revealed by the network notation of stratificational grammar. The evaluation procedure developed here provides a stratificational answer to Chomsky's assertion of 1957 that one of the important goals of theoretical linguistics should be the construction of an evaluation procedure to allow the comparison of competing treatments of the same data.